I'm a Leaf in the Wind, and this is the Weekly Nightly News. Pretty good news today for everybody who's excited about the growing police state. Just in case we weren't aware, the Transportation Security Administration, the TSA, has now expanded their authority because apparently they're helping with counter-terrorism efforts, not just in airports, but in any high-risk transportation area, which now has been expanded, or they're now expanding it, to include highway way stations, train stations, music festivals, rodeos, and sporting events. So just, prepare yourself for when you get on the train to go to work, or you get off the train to get to work, or you go to a football game, or, the Super Bowl, obviously. They've done it there. Or if you're a trucker driving across the country, another checkpoint at a way station. Another place where you now have to stop and be questioned and searched. And yes, these aren't just screening the crowds. No, they, just like at the airport, they're expanding the pat-down procedures, they're putting in scanners, they're acting entirely under the Department of Homeland Security. Like they've been put under there, they're now acting just like Border Patrol at the way stations. They're acting just like any TSA agent does in the airport, only also now at train stations, music festivals, sporting events, and rodeos, because those are our big terrorist targets. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to the train or a football game and I've said, oh my God, Al-Qaeda is going to get me. So I'm really glad that we're stepping that up, especially seeing as how we haven't even had a domestic alleged terrorist attack in over a decade. I'm really glad that we're implementing these new security procedures now. Not to mention the fact, I'm sure we can just print more money. That's not going to cause the dollar to collapse. It's worked so far. We control between 700 and 800 military bases, and that's the figure from NATO. And we currently station troops in over 60 countries. So, and that's currently, that's not even the height of our the number of countries we've been in. But we're currently in 60 countries, and occupying them, making sure that we show our might around the world, that we police the world, that we try to police the world to protect our security interests at home. I really don't know how we're doing that. We still have troops in Japan. I'm pretty sure they're not kamikaze pilots anymore. We still have troops in Germany. I know why, right? In Germany. Does the president know Hitler died? Because he's doing a really good job of taking his place, but that's not the point. Aside from growing our police state domestically, the checkpoints, and TSA is now in there. It is obvious that we are getting closer and closer to a point where the places you can go without being stopped, frisked, searched, and questioned is becoming lower and lower. Who should be stopped, frisked, questioned, and interrogated on the way to a rodeo? I don't see Al-Qaeda attacking a rodeo. I've been to lots of rodeos. They're great fun. They're outdoors in wide open spaces. They're not exactly the best, target for a terrorist attack. One, because it's a whole bunch of drunk cowboys riding around on horses. It's not the future leaders of tomorrow. And two, it's just an ordinary get-together. Rodeos are not like the Super Bowl. You know, it's fun. It's usually with a community. Rodeos are not that. Well, I mean, yeah, there are huge rodeos, I'm sure. But the ones I used to go to, they were always, it was on the weekends. We had one like every weekend, and it was a community thing. You would go there, you know, they'd set up little carts, and you know, they'd show you how to rope cattle and how to hog tie and how to ride a horse, and then they'd do the events with the barrel runs and the hog tying events and the bull riding events and the wild horse riding events and all the fun stuff. But my point is it's not where we need to be worried about Al-Qaeda, that's for sure. I don't know why we are. In fact, I don't think we are. I think, oh wait, that's right, the police state. That's the excuse to grow the police state. Just like that was the excuse to spy on our telephone calls. Just like that's the excuse to be able to lock up and detain American citizens, which is now legal. Just like that was the excuse to create the Department of Homeland Security and the TSA and put them under there, and then put FEMA under the Department of Homeland Security. Mass exoduses, invasions, terrorist attacks was the reason we gave FEMA the authority to suspend the Constitution. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is not a joke. FEMA has the authority to suspend the Constitution. That means your freedom of speech, your right to bear arms, right against unreasonable seizures and searches, rights not to have troops stationed in your home during times of peace, and during times of war without accordance with the law. All of your rights. All of your inalienable rights that are in the Bill of Rights, and even everything protected by the additional 17 amendments will be suspended. Everything in the Constitution will be suspended. That means they can do whatever they want. Whatever they want. You don't have a right to a speedy trial or a lawyer or due process. Your rights are taken away. Your citizenship is suspended. You are detained. Forced labor. Same thing we do with prisoners now, just without the small hourly wage. And as our indebtedness grows, our slavery grows. Indentured servitude, you know, it was often a thing back in Rome, and it's becoming a thing now. You used to be able to sell yourself into slavery if you needed money. You know, you could get that money and sell yourself, just even, you know, for a few years into slavery, temporarily into slavery for the money. Well, that's what we're doing every time we borrow money from the government. Or every time the government borrows money from the Federal Reserve, that is a loan. The Federal Reserve controls our money, and every time we take money out, we have to pay that money back to the Federal Reserve with interest. The more money the Federal Reserve prints, the less our money is worth, because the more of it is, the less each individual note is worth, because it's supposed to be backed by the same amount of gold. And obviously we're not getting more gold, we're just getting more paper money. And the more that we spend and the more we become indebted to the Federal Reserve, one, the harder it is to pay that back, because we are never going to be able to get out of debt. It is designed so that we will never be, the moment we borrow money, we borrow it with an interest. So if we were to borrow money from the Federal Reserve and give it all back right away, we would still be in debt. The initial interest that we owed when we took that out, we would still owe. It is impossible for us to get out of debt, especially while we control all these bases overseas. We talk about cutting our spending in the military. We talk about taking away, you know, the overpaid contractor jobs, or the black watch type mercenary marine jobs. We talk about pulling back on that and saving money and making budget cuts here and there. But what we really need to do is stop occupying the world. There is no reason to be occupying Germany. There's no reason to be occupying Japan. There is no reason that we have over 40 bases in the countries surrounding Iran. There's no reason that we have built at least 7 new bases since September 11, 2001. I'm sorry, that's bases in 7 countries. So at least 7 bases. You know what I mean? There's no reason for us to continue to police the world. A lot of Americans don't understand this, but the world is surpassing us in a lot of ways because we're spending this money on policing the world, and we're just trying to keep a strangle on our authority of the war across the world, across the globe. We're trying to make sure that the world needs us and that we are that superpower. The more we do that, the less we're able to progress in other areas, and we are getting passed up. I mean, our kids are not the smartest, are not the most well-read. We don't value, things like arts, like they do in other countries. We don't share the same culture, and it's a shame because if we would just pull back and, I don't know, maybe worry about using the troops that are protecting our freedoms to actually protect our freedoms, here where they need to be protected, then we could divert billions a year to much better causes, much better improvements to our own status as a country. We could pay off some of that debt that we owe. We need to abolish the Federal Reserve. That's another one. I mean, getting rid of the central bank is going to be a big part of that. And with that, we can do away with Social Security, which is not a retirement plan. Social Security was created in exchange. That's what we created. Social Security system kind of as collateral for the money that we would borrow from the Federal Reserve, that we pay into the Social Security fund to pay back the Federal Reserve. The money we pay into the IRS. Representative Ron Paul actually was just talking about this not too long ago, but the money we pay into the IRS comprises only 1/3 of the federal budget and the federal income and the country's income. And if we were to stop occupying countries around the world, and we were to bring our troops home, and we were to stop these frivolous, unconstitutional, against the Constitution, against the authority of the president, against the wishes of Congress, and in several cases against the wishes of the people that live there. How many of us have asked ourselves and actually looked into it, not just giving ourselves that bullshit, well, we're there because they need our help for freedom. The Iraqis need us to free them. Well, we're there because we're giving them democracy and rebuilding their nation. And then, when I tell people that they don't want us there, well, I hear back from the people I inform this to, well, too bad, because we're going to help them. I'm sorry, we're going to force help on them? And not only that, but we're going to force democracy on them. A system we don't even believe in under our Constitution. But a republic is what we are. A constitutional republic. And here we are. And I mean, even if you have that second argument, well, we're over there because we're helping them. We're building their country back up. We're setting them up with democracy. That's nation building. That's building their country. That's not, we say we're there fighting for our freedoms. If we're fighting for our freedoms, we're not nation building. And if we're fighting for our freedoms, we're fighting for our freedoms. I don't know if anybody has ever known what it feels like to fight for liberty and freedom. But it doesn't feel like going to an office job or a patrol job or a guard duty job, either 8 to 12 hours a day, however many days a month, and collect your amazing government pay with excellent benefits, because the military does receive excellent benefits, and then coming home at the end of the day, not actually having fought for anything, not actually having had any difficult task. A lot of these bases overseas are just there to maintain our presence, maintain our force. We're not actually fighting the Japanese. We're not fighting the Germans. We're not fighting anyone in Cuba. We're just using that as an illegal black hole to throw people into that we want to take away their rights. We're not defending ourselves. We're invading countries. And if you don't agree with me, then I want you to put the shoe on the other foot. You believe that 15 people from Saudi Arabia, along with 4 other men, who were stopped in the airport and allowed to go through. They were stopped a few times and still allowed onto the planes, got through with weapons after being stopped, hijacked the planes, attacked the Twin Towers, killed 3,000 people, brought those down. Okay, so we were attacked. When you defend yourself from an attack, you don't go back. You don't become the offense. If you're defending yourself, just like in the soccer field, you stay on home ground. You stay at the back of the field and you stand your ground. You defend yourself. When you leave, that's an invasion. And if you disagree with me, I might be about to open your mind. Because look at it this way. We got attacked, or we say we did, or we think we did on September 11th, and then we invaded. Now, we've spent over 12 years occupying Afghanistan, and almost just as many years in Iraq. And, we've gone into Libya, and we've supplied weapons to Syria, and we're doing missions in Yemen, and Pakistan, and everywhere else in God's green earth. And we've been doing this for several years, and Iraqi citizens alone, we've killed more than 1 million. They killed 3,000. We've killed more than 1 million Iraqi citizens alone. I'm not talking about Afghanistan. I'm not talking about Yemen. I'm not talking about Libya. I'm not talking about Syria, Pakistan. I'm just talking about Iraq alone. We've killed 1 million. I mean, that is 300 times. That is more than 300 times the amount of people that died in the alleged September 11 attacks. So by our own American logic, because we've gone over there and we've killed over 1 million Iraqi citizens. Oh, and of these 1 million Iraqi citizens, as many as, I believe it's over 600,000 are innocent, non-combatant civilians. So even at 600,000, that's still 200 times the amount of people that we lost on the September 11 attacks. So are they 200 times as justified to come invade our country? Are they? Is Iraq justified to invade America because of how many of their citizens and their civilians we have killed? Because we did the same thing to them that we said, that we said Saudi Arabia did to us. Saudi Arabia attacked us because that's where most of the hijackers came from, was Saudi Arabia, one of our friendly nations that, we're friends with the king, and that's where the people that attacked us came from. And then we go way over in left field and invade Afghanistan, and then Iraq. Actually, with no cause there, because we didn't even find the weapons in Iraq we were looking for. So I ask you again, how would you feel if they invaded America? If they found our Baghdad, our New York City, and just like we did, they said, we've been talking about going to war with Afghanistan and Iraq, for so long that the citizens there, They've obviously fled. So we're just going to assume that most of them or all of them have fled, and we're going to declare anyone in the city a combatant, and we're going to bomb the city. Because I don't know, again, if anybody remembers the Baghdad footage. You know what? Here it is. I don't know if anybody remembers all that footage, but those are bombs being dropped on a city. Those aren't bombs being dropped on terrorists. That's a city. Just like if they were to come over here and drop bombs on New York City, in hopes of getting the United Nations building, or some of the, the mayor, or the governor, or whatever city they decided to attack. Maybe Washington, D.C., hoping to take out the president and Congress. But they start bombing the entire city, civilian sectors too. And then, after they've, gotten all their depleted uranium in the air, because not only are our troops, we have a new Agent Orange, actually, from this. The depleted uranium shells and mini nukes that we've been using over there, once those explode, that disperses into the atmosphere. And one, we use depleted uranium because we were too cheap and lazy to dispose of it properly. And two, now that this is in the air, not only our troops that are there, while they're stationed there, our troops that a lot of Americans pretend to care about and support, our troops are going to get cancer from this shit. All the citizens of the world that we're claiming to help are going to suffer the same adverse health effects, and even worse so, because, should we ever pull out of these countries, they have to stay there, and they have to deal with it. And then 20 years from now, we'll say, it's the new Agent Orange, it was depleted uranium. Oops, we didn't see that coming. Anybody who's still alive and suffering will help with the health bills, and anybody who died, we're really sorry to the families, but they supported the country, and sometimes that's what happens. Is that what we're going to say? Sometimes that's what happens. You put your life on the line for the country. We poisoned you time and time again. We sent you to invade country after country after country without reason, cause, or any legitimacy. And you're dying because of us. And we say, whoops, our bad, sorry. So how would you feel? And then after the bombing, they say they're helping you. After all the uranium's in the air, they say, oh, we're helping the Americans. We're giving them the freedom of Allah. We're introducing, democracy over there. Because we have a republic. What if they came over and threw democracy in our face? And we said, we can handle our own things. We're done with American help. But thank you. Or, we would say, we're done with Iraqi help. But thank you. Please just go away and let us live our lives peacefully. And they were to continue to stay, how would we feel? I feel like we would be going to war with them. I feel like we would be rising up and fighting back, taking to the streets. Which is, in fact, we created a lot of the resistance over there because of this. We inspired a lot of people to rise up and fight us to protect their country. Those are the terrorists. The terrorists are people who wanted to protect their country and not die. Who were tired of seeing American soldiers drive through the streets and just shoot up cars. Cars that were driving through traffic. We're driving Humvees through rush hour on the wrong side of the freeway. We're shooting cars off the roads. If you don't stop and you don't see us coming and you're just a citizen, we shoot you. We set up checkpoints in other countries. Countries we don't even run, we don't live in, we have no power in, no authority to be there. And if they don't stop at the checkpoints we set up, we shoot their car to shit. and we kill everyone inside, children included. That is what we do. That is what you support when you support these wars. That is what you support when you support our government. You support the destruction of the American dollar. You support the enslavement of the American people. You support the rise of the police state, the poisoning of our food, the murder of our troops, the invasion and policing of the world, and the slaughter of innocents all over the world. Even if you believe every terrorist we targeted in a drone strike, we've gotten was actually a terrorist who was putting us in an imminent danger, then we've still taken out countless civilians in the vicinity. And again, these are drone strikes in Yemen. We take people out on who are driving in cars. We take people out in buildings. We take people out in Yemen and Pakistan. We're not in imminent danger. The only time that we're supposed to act in that manner is when we do not have time to make a valid assessment and say that only when it's like, if we don't kill them now, American citizens will die. I find that hard to believe when somebody's driving, along the road, or they're shopping, or they're sitting outside drinking tea or coffee, and we just strike them down. I don't feel like they were 5 seconds away from finishing their tea and then picking up an Uzi and just shooting a bunch of Americans who were, 15,000 miles away around the world. Because if you can do that with an Uzi, one, then that is really impressive. And two, you're a badass if you're doing that halfway around the world while drinking tea. You know what? I might just applaud. Our government's wrong. Our Constitution is right. That is what runs this country, not the government. The Constitution is the basis for everything. The Constitution lays out the powers of Congress. It lays out the powers of the executive branch, and it lays out the powers of the judicial branch. It lays out our rights. It lays out the authorities of the states. It lays out what everybody can and cannot do. And it has said that our government cannot do this, but we allow it to continue. Just some food for thought. Please share, subscribe, upload this video, just get the word out. I'm a leaf in the wind, and this is the Weekly Nightly News.